Did you know the Surface Pro 4 isn't Microsoft's latest flagship tablet? Note that honor goes to the new Microsoft Surface Pro. Now, read our Surface Pro review. Microsoft Surface Pro 4. The Essential Review. Our Essential Review of the Surface Pro 4 contains all of the highlights and lowlights of Microsoft's 2015 Windows 10 tablet. It's intended as a more digestible summary of our full-length review, in that it shouldn't take more than half a minute to read. The Surface Pro 4 isn't the youngest or the prettiest Surface Pro around these days, but it is still worth your consideration. When it first dropped in October 2015, it was seen as the natural progression of the Surface Pro lineage. 2 years later, it holds up relatively well, and although it's questionably priced brand new out of the box, it's tempting to snag a refurbished model. As it stands now, the 2017 Surface Pro starts at $799, £799, $1,199 for an Intel Core M3 processor, 4GB of RAM and 128GB of SSD storage space. At least in the US, for a limited time only. You can also get a Surface Pro configured with the same amount of storage and RAM, but with an Intel Core i5 CPU, for the exact same price from the Microsoft Store. For the sake of comparison, a Surface Pro 4 with a 2-year-old Intel Core i5 paired with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of SSD storage is only $20 less on Amazon, at $779 in the US. While it did charm us back in 2015 for its ability to convert from tablet to laptop on the fly, made better by the fact that it was designed for use with Windows 10 rather than the controversial Windows 8, it goes without saying that the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 has since been replaced. Nonetheless, it's a slate that we've honored with a 4.5-star rating, accompanied by a recommended seal of approval gracefully handed to the Surface Pro 4. Lauded for its bigger screen and sharper resolution, not to mention a refined keyboard and stylus, the Surface Pro 4 was Microsoft's best crack at its winning tablet formula yet. The Surface Pro 4 managed to introduce more levels of pressure sensitivity and a host of buttons to the signature, but sold separately, Surface Pen. Likewise, the Type cover keyboard is heavier and more satisfying to the touch, while the screen resolution was bumped all the way to 2736 by 1824, making it 216 pixels per inch ppi, as opposed to the 128 pixels per inch display of the 13-inch MacBook Air. By Microsoft Surface Pro 4 Intel Core i5 4GB RAM at Amazon for $699.99. The only problem now is that it's since been superseded by something better, namely the Microsoft Surface Pro, which we were introduced back in May 2017. Baffling naming conventions aside, this new tablet is the closest thing to a Surface Pro 5 we're going to get for quite some time. Its inevitable replacement aside, the Surface Pro 4 remains as one of the best Windows tablets around, though admittedly there aren't many to choose from. You can only buy it refurbished, but it is significantly cheaper for arguably better specs than you would get from the new Surface Pro. With the Surface Pro 4, Microsoft was more concerned with perfecting an already successful design rather than making any bombastic innovations. That's why it basically retains a similar look and feel to that of the Surface Pro 3, albeit with a few minor refinements, including a new chrome-laden Microsoft logo and a chassis more than half a millimeter thinner than the previous generation. Microsoft Surface Pro 4. Who's it for? Should I buy it? If you can't stand the massive, unwieldy size and price of the Surface Book 2, the Surface Pro 4 is not just a worthy alternative but an excellent first choice for creative professionals constantly on the move. It's cheaper than the new Surface Pro if you buy it refurbished, the only way to acquire it as of 2018, and, what's more, it's almost as good, although there are admittedly shortcomings when it comes to the battery life of the Surface Pro 4, it still holds up as a product that we can safely recommend to Windows tablet newcomers and veterans alike. As a Pro device, the Surface Pro 4 ships with Windows 10 Pro pre-installed at $199 per £219 per $339 value. Worse yet, it doesn't have LTE capabilities like the freshly launched Surface Pro with LTE Advanced, but we're not going to lose any sleep over it, and neither should you. You can always use your phone as a hotspot if need be, as it's worth making that concession for the price difference you're getting here. That goes without mentioning the Surface Pro 4's gorgeous screen, which is crystal clear when pitted up against its predecessor. The type cover might be sold separately too, but it's satisfying to the touch nonetheless. As we glossed over before, the battery life lasting only 3 hours and 15 minutes in the PC Mark 8 test is pretty unacceptable for a tablet, but the zippy internal components more than make up for the frequent need to charge. Despite having come a long way since its reveal 2 years ago, the Surface Pro 4 is still due for some improvements. The Windows 10 Fall Creators Update, for example, is now available to download and install, and it comes with a generous helping of long-requested features including sets or tabs for the apps you use outside of your browser. Likewise, we can count on more hardware updates later on down the road. After all, a Surface Pro 5 remains in the cards, according to Microsoft Design and Display. This is the Surface Pro 4 configuration sent to TechRadar for review. CPU 2.4 GHz Intel Core i5-6300U dual-core 3 MB cache, up to 3 GHz with Turbo Boost graphics, Intel HD graphics 520 RAM 8 GB LPDDR3 screen 12.3-inch 2736 by 1824 pixel sense display contrast ratio 1300 to 1 100% sRGB color 10-point multi-touch 3:2 aspect ratio storage 256 GB SSD PCIe 3.0 ports 1x USB 3.0 mini display port micro SD card reader on headphone mic jack connectivity 802.11 AC Wi-Fi 2x2 MIMO Bluetooth 4.0 low energy cameras 8MP rear facing autofocus camera 1080p HD 5MP front facing 1080p HD camera weight 1.73 pounds 786 G size 11.5 by 7.93 by 0.36 inches 292.10 by 201.42 by 8.4 millimeters WXDX. Just like last time, the same all-magnesium unibody casing is still here, though the Surface logo has been replaced with Microsoft's new logo in chrome. Microsoft managed to up the device's screen size by a few hairs, from a straight 12 inches to this year's 12.3 inches, without affecting its footprint at all. In fact, the firm shaved more than half a millimeter off of its thickness, from 9.1 mm to 8.4 mm, all while fitting full-fat mobile processors. As for how this was done, the capacitive Windows button said goodbye, thus the extra room for that 3/10 of an inch in the display. Then, Microsoft brought the screen's optical stack, the series of sensors, diodes and pixels beneath the glass, even closer to the glass now, a key point of Microsoft's trademarked PixelSense screen technology. The display is thus incredibly responsive to touch, and the further sensitivity it brings to the stylus experience is huge. In tandem with the improved Surface Pen, the screen detects 1024 levels of pressure, even during a single stroke. Now, let's talk resolution. Even though it didn't have to, Microsoft increased the Surface Pro 4's resolution from 2160 by 1440 216 pixels per inch, or pixels per inch, to 2736 by 1824. That makes for a huge 267 pixels per inch for the Surface Pro 4, which blows a key rival, the MacBook Air 128 pixels per inch for the 13-inch, out of the water, and just barely beating out Apple's 12.9-inch iPad Pro at 264 pixels per inch. More importantly, the new screen proves to be way more luminous and more color accurate than the Surface Pro 3 display at all brightness levels. This is obviously going to be a pretty big deal for any designers or artists that are looking to upgrade from the Wacom tablet and calibrated monitor combo. For the rest of us, this means more realistic-looking movies and more vibrant photos and games. That's despite even thicker black bars sandwiching your favorite films in 16:9 and even more so for those in 21:9, or widescreen format, thanks to the 3:2 aspect ratio that remains from last generation. It's a fair concern for folks that watch plenty of movies and TV on a tablet. But fear not, workers, for you're the very reason Microsoft made this decision. The 3:2 aspect ratio is a middle ground between 16:9 and 4:3 that is ideal for both photo and designer drafting work, wherein 3:2 is much more common, as well as getting computational work done, given the extra vertical space. Surface pen and type cover. In addition to the aforementioned 1024 levels of pressure sensitivity, the new and included Surface pen is redesigned to feel more like a pencil. The stylus now has one flat side, as if a number 2 pencil had all but 2 of its angles rounded off. This version is even more comfortable to hold than the last. As a result, your index finger rests just above the main function button on the flat end. Secondly, the left side of the frame is coated with thin, powerful strip magnets that allow it to cling onto the tablet's left side. The age of stylus loops is over. The pen also sports a new, functional eraser button up top that does what it says on the tin, but has 3 more functions. In addition to opening OneNote with a single press, the button now takes a screenshot and then opens OneNote with a double press. Finally, a long press summons Cortana to help you out. Microsoft seems to have expertly weighted the Surface Pen to make it feel not much heavier than your average clickable pen, despite all of the tech inside. Plus, now Microsoft offers additional pen tips right out of the box. Coupled with Microsoft's Pixel Sense display, the duo makes for the best stylus experience we've had on a tablet yet for as little as we want to use it. While we're neither artists nor designers, the screen's superb palm detection and the accuracy and nuance of the pen tracking give us confidence that the Surface Pro 4 is Microsoft's best shot at luring in that crowd yet. These improvements pale in comparison with Microsoft's new and still not included type cover. This time around, Microsoft took a cheeklet-style approach. This makes keeping track of which keys your fingers are on by feel much easier, and it allows for each key to be individually backlit. The new type cover is also thicker and far more rigid than before, allowing for deeper key travel and punchier feedback, not to mention a sturdier, quieter surface to type on, that brings it so much closer to a true laptop keyboard. Microsoft also widened the touchpad and coated it in glass rather than plastic. Finally, Microsoft has a version of the type cover with a biometric fingerprint ID for $159, £149, $249. The new keyboard cover is only available in black and uses Windows Hello to log in to the Surface with a fingertip press. The scanner can also authorize app purchases from the Windows Store, and because the keyboard is backwards compatible, it can be used with the Surface Pro 3 too. Performance. Here's how the Surface Pro 4 performed in our suite of benchmark tests. 3D Mark CloudGate, 5873 Skydiver, 3673 Firestrike, 856 Cinebench CPU, 305 points Graphics, 37 FPS Geekbench 3 single-core, 3135 multi-core, 6649 PC Mark 8 Home, 2406 PC Mark 8 battery life, 3 hours 15 minutes. Every performance score here, save for PC Mark 8 Home, shows a minor increase from the first unit I tested. It's a good sign that the Surface Pro 4 was already operating at its peak, and that only the battery needed fixing. The Surface Pro 4 bested the 2015 HP Spectre X360 in almost every test by roughly 25%. As for the 13-inch MacBook Air, its multi-core Geekbench 3, which tests CPUs primarily, score is plenty short of what the Surface achieved. Ultimately, don't expect to see a major difference between how any of these 3 machines perform day to day, though the MacBook Air will last way longer on a charge. If anything, you might get slightly better frame rates out of games played on the Surface Pro 4 than the 2015 Spectre X360. If you're curious, the Pro 4 runs Hearthstone, our go-to-tablet testing game, without a hitch on its highest settings, even at an automatically adapted resolution. Plus, the color-calibrated display makes every element on the game's interactive playboards that much more distracting. Battery life. Tested on pre-production hardware that we were promised has been scrubbed of its battery woes. The Surface Pro 4 produced far better battery life results than at the onset. Unfortunately, they're still well below not only Microsoft's own claims, but what choice rivals are able to put up. While arguably the most harsh battery test in our lineup, PC Mark 8 Home battery saw the Pro 4 last 3 hours and 15 minutes, a marked 50% increase from before. Still, the Spectre X360 held out in the test for 4 hours and 38 minutes. Microsoft's tablet fared much better on our video playback test, lasting 5 hours and 15 minutes. That's enough to last you on most coast-to-coast US flights. In a similar test, the MacBook Air was able to stream 1080p video over Wi-Fi for a whopping 13 hours and 24 minutes. Though, that's thanks to a far lower resolution display and likely a larger battery. Regardless, Microsoft promises up to 9 hours of video playback, and these numbers aren't close. Sure, these figures are far better than last year's Surface Pro 3, despite the serious screen resolution bump, which should not be overlooked. But they still can't hold a candle to neither Apple's leading laptop nor its top tablet, much less comparable Windows hybrids. Longevity is then about the only thing holding the Surface Pro 4 back from truly, honestly replacing your laptop, or at least your MacBook Air specifically. Otherwise, the machine offers somewhat below average lasting power. Not convinced? Try these. Samsung Galaxy Book, with an incredible display, long battery life and all of the essential accessories in the box. This tablet all but requires you to make liberal use of Samsung's phone-exclusive syncing and biometric login features via Samsung Flow, its key selling points. Just mind the lack of Windows Hello. The Lenovo MIX 510, a great price, USB-C and USB 3.0, and an included keyboard cover make the MIX 510 an appealing option. While there are a couple of reasons battery, screen why you'd go for the Surface Pro 4 instead, but the MIX 510 offers an awful lot for the price. But again, what's counting against it is considerable. HP Spectre X2, its unique kickstand, even sharper IPS screen and hardier included keyboard cover help the Spectre X2 stand out. You'll stay for the impressive spec sheet and premium. That said, it's too bad that the stylus doesn't come included with this device, unlike its rivals. This is likely the biggest rival to the Surface line today. First reviewed October 2015. Kane Fulton and Gabe Carey have also contributed to this review.